Hey there guys, what's going on? It's Craig Patterson for DS Sports as always, and here it's a big day for Scotland football and our first instalment of DS Sports Scotland national team as we look ahead to one of the biggest games Scotland have had for a while, ever since the last campaign. We had obviously the Nations League campaign as well, but now this is a big one. This is a massive game for Scotland. It's Scotland versus Russia at Hampden Park tonight. It's Friday the 6th of September. And we're looking ahead to it. We're going to preview all the teams. We're going to preview exactly maybe what sort of formations we'll potentially be looking at from both sides. We're going to be looking a little bit more at the Russian team as well, and just who their big names are. They've got a big forward line in more ways than one, especially with the top man, the captain for them. But we're going to look ahead to both teams. We're going to look ahead to the Scotland national team and see how they're going to set up. So let's get into it. It's a big game. Obviously, both teams coming off decent results recently. Russia have started okay. They've got 9 points out of 12. They lost their opening game to Belgium before 3 wins over the rest of the teams in the group prior to Scotland, with Cyprus, Kazakhstan and San Marino. They've all got wins over them, and now, albeit Cyprus was quite narrow, but also Scotland have got that in their locker as well. So Russia have started well. They are 3 points ahead of Scotland at the moment after Scotland started off with a really crushing 3-0 defeat at Kazakhstan before a narrow 2-0 win against San Marino, and then the narrow home win against Cyprus, a last minute winner by Ollie Burke, giving Scotland a massive win there, and then perhaps inevitable but no doubt a good showing defeat to Belgium away in Brussels. So we'll look at the Scotland squad. They've had a couple of changes. It was originally a 24-man squad. There was a few new faces in there, most notably Craig McGillivray, Portsmouth #1 down there. He's been added to the squad. We've seen the likes of Jordan Archer. He's gone out the squad. David Marshall is still in there, and John McLaughlin as well still in there. So two League One goalkeepers and David Marshall in there as well. Couple of new faces that's in the backline positions as well. Liam Palmer got recalled but has since dropped out the squad. Grant Hanley also got called up but has also dropped out the squad. Charlie Mulgrew returns to the squad as well. Liam Cooper, his first cap for nearly 3 years. Brilliant. It's actually really good to see him back. We've had a lot of good things happen. With him down at Leeds, I think he's now Leeds captain. So it's good to see him in the squad. Good experienced player, getting regular game time down there in a very good team as well. So I've got a few options at centre back. I mean, we've got Liam Cooper and Charlie Mulgrew, and then the 2 new faces of Michael Devlin and also David Bates. So David Bates is also back in the squad after missing out initially, the Hamburg centre half. So there was a lot of question marks over him in the last few games. Certainly for myself personally, I thought he was struggled at centre half. He was quite untidy on the ball. His defensive positioning, especially with players running at him, it was a little bit off. So a little bit of tightening up required. But I actually think Charlie Mulgrew will provide that. A very experienced campaigner for Scotland, and someone who I think can really steady that back line. And then obviously skipper Andy Robertson has recently been shortlisted for FIFA Team of the Year in the left back position. He's in amongst the shortlist amongst many others. Obviously started off really well at Liverpool. Has just kept their first clean sheet against Burnley last weekend. So good confidence booster for him. He started off the season really well with 100% win rate down there to start the season. His obviously understudy is now Greg Taylor. Greg Taylor obviously just moved into Celtic. Yep, so probably not going to be the one to start the game, but certainly someone who Scotland are looking for as the next Andy Robertson, especially now Greg Taylor's off to Celtic. So if he can really kick on his career, come straight in and replace Kieran Tierney, who's obviously gone down to Arsenal, perhaps we could see our next left back for the next 6-7 years after Andy Robertson potentially. The midfield I think is fantastic. Some really good faces in there. I could probably pick out my middle three. I would expect Scotland to line up in a 4-3-3. It's something that Steve Clarke has liked to do, and I know that over the last couple of games since he's been in charge, that's what he's liked to do as well. But nonetheless, some really good depth in there, and players who are in good form. We've got the likes of Armstrong, Christie, Ryan Jack has played well for Rangers this year so far. John McGinn's obviously flying down south. They're really raving about him in many different media outlets, obviously the major channels like Sky Sports, etc. Callum McGregor's obviously had a decent start with Celtic. Kenny McLean's obviously playing Premier League football down at Norwich just now. Scott McTominay has started off really well in a team that has really struggled in Manchester United since their opening day winning against Chelsea. And also Robert Snodgrass is in there as well. It's good to see him back because he's one that actually, he looks like he provides a really good vibrant energy into the team, and he's obviously a really good player as well. Someone who's started to get game time with West Ham as well. Played in the Carabao Cup recently as well. I think he might have been playing the odd Premier League game as well, but perhaps not. I could be wrong on that. But it's good to see him playing football. Good to see him back in football after some really quite horrible injuries that he's had recently. And yeah, it's really good. And then you've got the forward line. Obviously the forward line is something which has not so much in the wide positions, because we've always had, especially recently, we've had the two pretty much mainstays on the right and left wing with Forrest and Fraser, who are playing some really attacking, really bright-minded football at the moment, especially Ryan Fraser down south creating all the goals. But obviously you've got the likes of Ollie McBurnie, Oliver Burke, Matt Phillips, all these kind of players. Stephen Naismith, Stephen Fletcher's been in the squad recently, who are looking to really fulfil the number 9 position. Nobody's really locked down. We've also got Lee Griffiths is now back. He's playing really well at Celtic. Maybe not playing as regularly as he used to, but someone who I think could be a huge line for us at number 9 in the future, especially with Forrest playing on the right hand side. Someone who's going to really create goals for him as well as score them himself. But in this occasion, we've always got Forrest and Fraser, probably going to be the starting two wingers against Russia and Belgium. We've also got your other positions in the other squad members in there. Ollie McBurnie, who's obviously Sheffield United's record signing. I think he's maybe Scotland's record signing as well. Then you've got Stephen Naismith back in the fold after his return to Hearts after a bit of an injury layoff. Obviously signed a permanent deal with Hearts after being released from Norwich. Matt Phillips as well, playing, I think he's playing regular football West Brom, scored in the opening day of the Championship season. And then obviously Johnny Russell, who came in, who sort of returned to the squad last summer at the end of the season when they were playing the 2 games in South America. He really gave a good account of himself there. People were raving about him from there, and he seems to have come in and done a good impact for the Scotland national team when he's played. Obviously he's going to come over from the MLS, so he's still at Sporting Kansas City. So I think a very good squad. There's obviously still the question marks, perhaps at the front and the back. With number 9, nobody's really locked that down. Nobody's really scoring those goals for Scotland in the number 9 position. And obviously the centre halves, we haven't had a proper centre half partnership at all recently. Scott McKenna's pretty much fallen away by the sounds of it, even though people were raving about him to be potentially the next Scotland captain, the next player to get 50, 60, 70 caps for the national team at centre half, but it hasn't worked out for him. I think he's also injured as well, so maybe I'm being a little bit harsh on him, but there's still question marks over his form to begin the season. But nonetheless, he's obviously out the squad just now. John Souttar's obviously out the squad as well. Craig Halkett's not made the squad either, so 2 Hearts centre halves. Halkett's really come into that first team. Seemed to start off okay, has sort of blipped a little bit recently, but nonetheless he's a very good promising centre half for Scotland, someone who can probably profit from all this uncertainty when he really gets going in the next year or two. At Hearts and possibly going forward as well. So, like I said before, I would probably expect Scotland to line up in a 4-3-3. I would imagine David Marshall will probably start in goal, especially against Russia. It seems like obviously with Steve Clarke, his initial thoughts were to try and potentially reach out to players who have done okay in the past for Scotland, who have really done a good job for the national team. He's kept in contact with them and tried to potentially see where they're at with the national team, see if there's any hope that they come back in. Snodgrass is one, another. Naismith seems to be another as well. But nonetheless, David Marshall's also made the return. I would expect him to start because there seems to be a bit more trust with David Marshall from Steve Clarke. So I'm expecting him to be a number one. I'm expecting probably Stephen O'Donnell to be the right back. Obviously, Andy Robertson will very much be the first choice at left back. I mean, he'll be the first choice at almost any team in the world, I would imagine. I don't think there's really any team in the world who wouldn't want Andy Robertson playing as their left back. So yeah, probably your fullbacks sorted out there. I'm expecting the centre halves to probably be Charlie Mulgrew and Liam Cooper. Liam Cooper to probably get his first start for Scotland. I don't think he's come off the bench yet. I don't think he's even there in the first cap yet. So I'm expecting him to probably start. Because I think that's probably what they needed. I think Liam Cooper is strong centre half, plays regular football, got a lot of minutes under his belt, and I don't think with the likes of obviously David Bates and Michael Devlin not being first choice instantly, and Grant Hanley dropping out, I'd imagine Liam Cooper would come in and probably slot in along with Charlie Mulgrew, who's your experienced head. So that's where I'd see the back four. So I'd expect O'Donnell, Mulgrew, Cooper and Andy Robertson as your back four. I would expect the three in midfield probably to be anchored by John McGinn. He's obviously, like I said, done a really good job in that sort of box-to-box team midfielder, but certainly someone who can put a tackle in and hold that midfield, try and pick up the ball from deep as well, and try and feed his two other midfielders, which we'll talk about in a minute. And yeah, like I say, again, probably his peak form. I'm expecting John McGinn, if he continues this form for the other 30 odd games in the Premier League season, I've kind of predicted over the next year or two he could be a £40 million player, going to one of the top 6 in the Premier League. I mean, you've looked at N'Golo Kante, and I'm not saying John McGinn's at that level, but he's certainly that kind of player, perhaps maybe a bit more defensive minded than that. But yeah, certainly with the English market down there, I would expect him to be going for, and especially now the fact he's just signed a 5-year contract as well. But enough about John McGinn, let's move on to the other two in midfield. I'd expect Scott McTominay to start, because I think even though United have struggled this season and he's been playing alongside Paul Pogba and he's been kind of here, there and everywhere, he has got that ability to get the ball down and ping some good passes and amongst the front, especially through the Russian midfield, I would expect, and linking up and trying to get the team going at the back four of Russia. So I'd expect him to maybe start on the right hand side of John McGinn, and try and maybe play out towards James Forrest or in towards the number 9. Yeah, I've obviously given away my right wing position there, but there was kind of no surprises there. So I'd expect him to be in there. I'm probably assuming on the left side, my first thought was going to be Stuart Armstrong, because I know that he's got that sort of attack mindedness. I think you could potentially put Callum McGregor in there, and I wouldn't actually argue with that too much. But I think Stuart Armstrong's got that ability to just go at players, and he's got that creativity about him to create the final ball and link up even with McTominay as he sort of narrowed into a 2 in front of him again, something like that. So that's kind of what I'd also expect. You could potentially look at maybe Kenny McLean in there, but I think he's maybe not quite had the same kind of form as the rest of the players. Ryan Christie, I think, is just a little bit too further forward. He's more of a number 10 rather than a sort of playmaking number 8 as such. So I wouldn't. Obviously, you could easily change this to a 4-2-3-1 and put Christie in there, but I think there's a lot of pressure on McGinn and McTominay to then anchor that midfield. It might restrict Scott McTominay a bit more as well, even though he might have a bit more of a role to play in that midfield, playing in that too if John McGinn decides to do that, but there is a threat you could get caught out by doing that. So I would say probably Armstrong on the left hand side of that midfield three, looking at potentially playing through balls for Fraser to go on to, to then play the final ball, to play one of his notoriously good crosses into the 6 yard, into the 18-yard area for the number 9 to score onto. So like I said, Forrest on the right probably, I think that's kind of nailed on. Ryan Fraser on the left as well, again another nailed on position. Number 9, I really am not sure about this one. You're probably going to be looking at Ollie McBurney. He's not had a lot of playing time though, that's the only problem, is that he's not played a lot of football. You could go in there and say, right, you've got experience in there, so you put Stephen Naismith in that, and he can maybe play a sort of more false 9 position as well. And you know he's going to play well for the national team, he usually does. I don't know if you could potentially put in like a false 9 or anything like that. I think that's maybe being a bit too clever. I think your midfielders are a bit too attack minded, especially if you're going to do sort of a Ryan Christie and a false 9. Then you could potentially look at someone like Callum McGregor in there to sort of, although he's very creative, he's also played in a 2 with Scott Brown for Celtic this season, and he's thrived in that as well. So you could look at something like that. I'm not too sure. So I would probably say Stephen Naismith as your centre forward, but I wouldn't be surprised you put Ollie McBurney in there, but he has struggled for Scotland since he's come into the team, so I'm not sure exactly where your trust would lie in that. But then you could easily see someone like in a centre attacking mid, like, I don't know, Ryan Christie, someone like that, potentially going into the number 9 position, the false 9 position. So that's how I'd probably expect Scotland to line up. So now we'll probably look at the Russian national team. Obviously Russia they've come off hosting the World Cup last summer. They've started pretty much as Scotland would have wanted to have started, with winning every game bar Belgium. So they have got going. They've done what's expected of them. They're thriving at the moment. Looking at their squad, there's a lot of unfamiliar faces, especially in the midfield. You're looking at, I mean, the big threat is the front four. I think the front four is probably the biggest threat, with the likes of Golovin, Cheryshev, looking at maybe Miranchuk in there as well, but certainly Smolov on another side as well, and then Artem Zhuba, the captain as well. Big towering 6.5 foot centre forward. 20 goals in 36 international games. Still in his prime at 31, but someone who will cause a lot of problems, especially with his finishing and especially his height. So I don't know if you could maybe try and affect that, but it's difficult. It's difficult to play against that kind of centre forward. So I don't know how Steve Clarke will go about that. I'm sure he's got a plan for it, but yeah, it's going to be a tough one. That's going to be the main threat, especially with the 3 playing behind him, with Golovin, Cheryshev and Smolov as well. Miranchuk could potentially slot in there as well. Roman Zobnin's had a few games under his belt. There's a lot of players who have had 20 something caps for Russia. They've played in amongst the team as well. Back, I don't know how they'll line up. I've seen them line up in a 3, they've lined up in a 4 as well. You've got the likes of Yuri Shirkov. He could play as a left back or a left wing back. Obviously somebody famous, he's well known. Now he's in St Petersburg, also was at Chelsea as well. Well known in other parts of Europe as well. Mario Fernandes in there as well, someone who had a decent World Cup. Roman Neustetter probably going to be playing that centre half role with somebody, I'm not sure, whether it's Kudryashov or something like that, I'm not sure. Number 1, it's unsure how their number 1's going to look, because they haven't had that solid number 1 in Russia by the looks of it. They've got Marinato and Liniov, who have had 7 and 8 caps between them, and then they've got Janachev. He's 32 years old and only had 1 cap to his name playing in Sochi. So obviously there's a lot of it's a lot of Russian-based players. It's more like an England squad in that respect, where there's a lot of players based in the country that are playing regular football for their clubs and then getting into the national team that way. So it's going to be interesting to see how Russia have lined up. I'm actually going to maybe have a look and see how they've maybe lined up in the last couple of games or so. Let's have a look. Obviously going back to the World Cup, we all know what happened there. Go the game against Cyprus and see how they lined up. So obviously I had 4-0 win against Kazakhstan in Kazakhstan, somewhere that Scotland lost 3-0. Then beat San Marino 9-0, and then beat Cyprus 1-0. So so they played a 4-3-3 in this affair, so that's a little bit surprising. I thought they might have maybe set up in a 4-4-2 or 4-2-3-1, should I say? Sorry. So they lined up with Guillermo in goal. He's not in the squad. Mario Fernandes played at right back, probably what I expected. They had Kudryasov playing at left back, so Zhirkov didn't actually make the first team lineup that time. They had Semenov and I don't know, I've forgotten. So I think a couple of these players are maybe not in the team. And then I had the midfield three of Golovin, Zovnem and Ozdoyev. So I think they're all in the squad, similar like Golovin is and Zovnen are. They then got replaced later on by Baranov and so Zovnen got replaced by Baranov and a couple of other players got, and then they had a front three of sorry, give me a second. The front three of Ionov, so he's in the squad as well. He started the game. He got the only goal in this game. He then got replaced later on by Akhmetov, and Zhuba obviously in the middle, and then Anton Miranchuk as well. So they held a bit back. They obviously had no Cheryshev in this squad, no Cheryshev in this team. They had no hang on. So they had no Cheryshev in this team, they had no Smolov in this team. So perhaps maybe a little bit more of a maybe a reserved, like obviously they had San Marino and Cyprus in this affair towards the end of the season, so they might well have not been players in this affair. So anyway, apologies for the sort of delay in looking at that. I thought I better look at that before I said anything more. But yeah, it's kind of a similar story with the Russian team as it is with the Scotland team, especially when you look at caps. There's not a lot. There's only Smolov, Zhuba and Zhirkov who have had more than 30 caps, so something quite similar to Scotland in that respect. But yeah, so perhaps some experience there, but a lot of these players did play in the World Cup as well. I mean, Scotland themselves haven't had many like high capped players either. They've got obviously Naismith, Forrest, Andy Robertson, Charlie Mulgrew. They're all around the 30-40 cap mark. Stephen Naismith the highest. He's going to be getting his 50th cap if he plays this weekend over these next two games. But apart from that, you've got half dozen players who have got more than 10 caps. So it's interesting. You've also got three uncapped players in Cooper, Devlin and McGillivray. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting one to see how it all works out. But it's going to be a fascinating game in my opinion. It's going to be a really fascinating game between two good teams, two teams that have gone through different periods of how like their national team has played. I think Russia are looking to qualify for their third straight Euros. They've also reached the last eight, beating Spain in the last World Cup at home, so they're thriving off of that. The country's buzzing off of that. Scotland have got a rebuilding job to do after missing out on the last campaign under Gordon Strachan. They've also struggled. They've also nearly been there, but they've got that playoff place if we need it. But that's certainly no given, especially if Serbia don't qualify, because Serbia have got players for days in that squad. They've got Mitrovic, Jovic, who's obviously moved to Real Madrid, but he's slightly out of favourite, the €60 million man. And Diono's they've got so many fantastic players in that team. They're in there as well, so if they don't qualify, we could be in amongst them. But anyway, we won't forget about that. Hopefully Scotland do the business tonight. It's going to be live. It's 7:45 tonight. This is Friday the 6th of September. We're going to review that potentially tonight after the game. We're going to film that and then potentially upload it tomorrow on the Saturday. And during that, we'll probably look ahead to the Belgium game. We might have the result of the Belgium game as well, as they play against San Marino away from home, so they'll probably put 10 or 12 past them. But anyway guys, enjoy the game. Remember to watch it. If you're watching this, go down to Hampden and watch it. Go down to Hampden. We need Hampden buzzing again, and these two games might just be the do it. I'm going to go and we'll go to the Belgium game on Monday. Fortunately can't make it tonight. But anyway guys, thank you very much for watching the video. It's the first installment of DS Sports Scotland national team as we look ahead to two very important games ahead. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to like and comment on the video. Like the video, send a comment and subscribe to the channel if you're new. Yeah, thank you very much for watching guys. We'll see you guys very soon, next couple of days or so, where we recap all, look ahead to Belgium, and hopefully we'll 3 points under the belt. See you guys very soon.